to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal. Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool, I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It's a science thing, it's a science place, it's a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It's time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Coming up tonight, very shortly, very excited to be talking to a very interesting drummer and musician, Blake Fleming, of a lot of bands, but most recently the incredible reunited Dazzling Killmen. I can't wait to talk about that, as well as about Laddio Bolocko, his work with the Mars Volta guys, all that great stuff. Really dig this dude. Been trying to remember to have him on for forever, and here we are in 2025 doing it. But before we do literally any of that, thank you for tuning in to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I'm your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer that has been touring and recording for over 25 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. But if you'd like to get episodes sooner, as well as support the show, going to patreon.com/protonicreversal and paying $1 a month will achieve that goal, and it helps keeps the lights on around here. And, of course, thanks to everyone for liking, subscribing, sharing on your platform of choice, even leaving a review. All of this helps people find the show, and it beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords, and this is a darn nice thing to do. So there we go. So Blake Fleming, Dazzling Kilmen are back. Those are not words that I expected to be saying in the year 2025, but they're nice ones to be saying. So without any further ado, let's bring on master musician, drummer extraordinaire, Blake Fleming. Welcome to the show, man.
Hi, Conan. Thanks for having me.
You know, I saw Laddio Bolocko when I think it was Trans Am you were on tour with forever ago. And I was, and I walked in like right as you guys started. I was, wow, this band's cooking. Like, what is this? This is badass. And then like later on, someone's like, oh yeah, that's the guy from Dazzling Kilmen. I'm like, what? Really? Because it wasn't a band. I didn't know anything. I lived in Oakland. I was in the West Coast. I didn't know. It was just harder to explain for the younger listeners that the information just didn't travel that fast. Right. And I didn't know anything about you guys. I didn't know like what anybody looked like. I didn't know like, oh, did they ever tour? Did they play a show? I don't know. The record's good. But that was my first experience with you. And then later on, I found out like, oh, this guy's like done like all kinds of stuff. Like Dazzling Kilmen was like actually relatively early on. How did you get started with drumming?
My neighbor was a drummer. Is kind of the short answer. And there was an organization in my hometown that was a fife and drumming corps that I found out about through her. And after speaking with her, you know, she suggested, well, maybe take some lessons with me. Like, I'll be your teacher. And she literally lived like 2 houses down from my parents' house. So I'd walk down there once a week. You know, it was like $6 or $8, you know, for a drum lesson. This is like 1980 or something. You know?
Yeah.
And lucky for me, she was a great teacher. And she got me involved with this organization also, which was mainly high school kids. There were a couple younger kids in it, like myself. I might have been the youngest at one point for a while. A lot of, you know, people between the ages of say 14 and 17, where I had come in. I was a recruit from the ages of like 8 to 9, and then by the time I was like 10, I was actually in the corps. And we performed and toured like every summer. I mean, we did things like we performed for like Ronald Reagan on his birthday, like in
Oh my God.
Dixon, Illinois, where he's from. And I got
Wow.
a bunch of us got frostbite. One of the parents' fathers was like going to like seriously like beat the ass of like the organizer of the corps, like this old guy that was named Dr. Veit. They like got in a fist fight in the parking lot of this church that we used to rehearse in back in my hometown. Like we're like just marching around rehearsing, and then all of a sudden there's like these two older dudes like totally scrapping,
armed combat going. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. It was kind of a it was an awesome upbringing in a lot of ways, starting off that way, because all of a sudden I was in I was a little kid, and I was in a line with like 6 other snare drummers, and I had to play just like them, and we had a drum instructor that had moved to the area and was like the rudimental drumming champion from West Point. Like he was the East Coast rudimental drumming champion at one point from West Point, with all this like crazy hand technique and dexterity and knowledge, and he started teaching us, and I was like, this is between the ages of 9 and 12.
Yeah. So this is like opening up worlds for you, pretty much, I would imagine.
Yeah,
right?
and so and I'm doing it with all these older kids, so I really always had to play at the highest level that I could. I had older brothers. I'm the youngest in my family. I spent time on the shrink's couch talking about this sort of thing in a way, because I was always like
it's kind of like what this show is, so that works out well.
I was always sort of the not the runt in a way. I mean that would be a little too pejorative, but like I was always the younger one in a lot of these things that I was involved in, because I just got involved in music really early. And I kind of took to it, and I had a certain amount of talent, but I also just like really fell in love with it. So I practiced all the time. Like I just played drums all the time once I got into them. And, I got my first snare drum when I was 8. I had my drum set by the time I was 12, and I had really good teachers in the beginning for snare drum and drum set that really, and then I met Nick and Darren when I was like, 15 years old from Dazzling Killmen, and those guys being older than I was, again, it was like a whole other school that I went to, So
that's so interesting, because in a way, a lot of people, especially if they're coming at it in aggressive music, they come at it just from like just the world of punk rock, or just, banging away until like being terrible until you get better, which is not to say that wasn't what happened, but it's coming from, you need like a certain amount of discipline when you're playing with other people so strictly. So you're coming from it's almost like there's a lot of freedom when you're just, it's just me playing the drums. Oh, wow. I can do all kinds of stuff. Great.
there was accountability, and we were also touring. Like I was getting in vans with people.
You knew touring.
Part of my summer,
sure.
Like playing all over parts of the country. We would go to all these reenactments and festivals and stuff, and like I mean, you're hanging out in those places like. Those people know how to party, man. It got really like debaucherous. Like my parents pulled me out by the time I was 12 years old. I got pulled out. We came back from this week-long trip in Washington D.C.
Yeah,
we played on the steps of the Capitol. We played in like in this car commercial, 4th of July sale, and we're like marching around these cars and stuff. Like crazy experiences, right? And, my mom is like unpacking my suitcase, and there's like a dirty jokes book. There's like a dirty magazine. There's like some bottle caps, and there's all this crap that it was like, I was growing up way too fast all of a sudden, and I got pulled out. But the funny thing is, I mean, it broke my heart, right? At the time, because that was my whole life, my outlet, my identity, my best friends, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like, whoa, it was scary. A couple years after that, though, they let me get into a bagpipe band, a Scottish bagpipe band with all these World War II veterans who were like complete.
Oh my God!
Total alcoholics. We played the Orange Bowl parade one year. I was about 14 years old. We took a bus from St. Louis down to Miami, straight drive, 24 hours. We had a keg in the back of the bus for the drive. Not even kidding. One of the guys got so fucking drunk in Atlanta, he got on the wrong bus and climbed up into the luggage rack. And like there was a bus driver calling our bus driver going like, "Hey, we got this like really hammered Scottish guy here. He says he belongs to the people going to Miami." So
amazing.
Up on the side of the road and pick this guy up, and I mean it was a crazy, crazy scene, and that was a really interesting though, upbringing drumming wise too, because Scottish snare drumming is like really syncopated.
Yeah.
It's rhythmically really interesting. You know, it's very jazzy in a lot of ways. And yeah, but I was also hanging out with these, like there were a couple kids about my age or a little bit older, but they were crazier than some of the guys were. So it was amazing.
It's pretty well, and then you're getting sort of like the good and bad sides of touring at an early age, right?
Absolutely, yes. I had those experiences very, very early on, actually.
And especially with debaucherous activity, where you don't have to, nobody has to worry about driving because you got a driver. So, no, that's really interesting because I think that's a relatively unorthodox come up for a musician at a, for lack of a better term, like DIY punk rock level, whatever you want to call it. But it seems like it kind of gave you a bunch of tools in the tool belt just as you were getting going that maybe a man that young wouldn't have.
Well, while I was doing all those things, like when I got my drum set when I was 12, I immediately started just playing with cassettes. Right. So, and that was with like, you know, all the punk rock stuff from the 70s, you know, especially the British stuff. I loved, you know, the Jam, the Clash, the Sex Pistols, you know.
Sure, yeah.
I had two older brothers, like you know, their influences became, you know, sort of my taste early on. Luckily they were into good stuff. My parents as well were into good stuff. But I started just playing with a lot of, you know, early sort of punk rock music, you know.
Yeah.
And then by the time I was in my mid-teens, 14, 15, I had discovered Black Flag and stuff earlier, but I didn't really start listening to them and really knowing about them until I was about like 15, 16 years old. And then like there was that whole other scene of the real DIY punk rock, you know, because all the early stuff, the Ramones and all that stuff, they were all on major labels, you know.
Right, yeah. And it's not that the music isn't great, but it's still going through like the larger system of, for lack of a better term, rock music or whatever, what have you, and not this world of actual, you know, indie rock as they call it, or just like DIY. Again, it's rare for people to be introduced to that first because you got to kind of look for it or have someone turn you on to it. So then you're finding out about all these other bands. And when you're listening to Black Flag, is that this like the early stuff? Are you getting into the My War stuff? Like what era is this?
Yes, I mean, of course, you know, the entryway was like basically like Damaged, you know, like
sure.
For a lot of people, right? You know, I mean, it's like
every young man's issued a copy of that and like the Minor Threat record, right? You know, it's like
yeah. And then, you know, My War, Jealous Again, you know, all of those. Process of Weeding Out, you know, I got into.
I used to have a Process of Weeding Out shirt, and I really am pissed that I lost it.
I have that shirt. And it has shrunk enough times that it is now my wife's shirt.
That's awesome.
when I was, you know, when I was in Mars Volta second time around, we were rehearsing for like 6 weeks at SST Studios, Greg Ginn's place out in Long Beach.
Sure, yeah.
Became just because it's like this massive warehouse. It is gigantic, and there's the you know, all the SST stock. He was also running like an animal rescue at the time out of it.
Oh, wow.
There was this massive, there was like 2 huge rehearsal areas. I mean, they were like, you could have had a football game in one of them. I mean, seriously, they were just monolithic. They were seriously, and it was like a walkway balcony around it. Anyway, we were housed there for like 6 weeks. And at one point he was like, hey, you know, if you guys just want to go and pick out some records and shirts, help yourself. We're like,
wow.
It's for free? Like, you don't want any money? He's like, no. He's like, just, you know, just don't, you know, make a mess or anything, but yeah, help yourself. So it was like,
man, no wonder nobody made any money on that record label. That's great though. I mean,
he was super nice. He was super nice. You know, I only talked to him a little bit. But he was always very nice. And so I walked away with like all the things that I did not have, any little things.
Filling in the blanks.
SST sort of collection was,
sure.
You know, and then plus all the Pettibone shirts and stuff, you know.
Hell yeah.
Which now my son is like going to school. He's in 7th grade. He's got a Minutemen shirt on today, the San Pedro with the anchor that came from that.
No, well, I have it upstairs, and it's in deep tatters, but I still refuse to let it go.
Yeah, he's got like that baby bluish turquoise My War shirt, you know.
Nice.
So yeah.
So all right, so you're listening to stuff that's like, you know, it's aggressive music. It's propulsive music. what's the first stuff that's like less like straightforward? That's more like kind of crazy or kind of like, oh wow, I didn't really realize that you could do that kind of thing. What kind of stuff opens up that world for you?
I think one of the biggest head jerks I had initially was Nick from Dazzling Killmen, Nick Sage gave me a CD to check out of Lick My Decals Off Baby, Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band.
Beefheart's right.
And I had no reference point for that.
Oh my God.
All.
Yeah,
know,
right.
I mean, who does, right?
Yeah, it's like from Saturn, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I had been listening to, like, more of the out sort of Coltrane stuff. Like I was because of an early drum teacher I was a pretty avid student of jazz by the time I was about 12, 13 years old. Like I knew a decent amount of stuff because I just got into it, and I could see how it was like, oh my God, like the drummers are so good, and like if I study them, it'd make me better at this other stuff, and so I had some taste, but there was I mean, my God, there was so much I didn't know, and so that was a real landmark because it absolutely just blew me away in so many different ways. And I think that specific album and that session continues to this day to be an influence. Like I can hear it in my playing, especially when I'm improvising or playing more free with people. There's like this, and it's funny because I'm friends online with Drumbo.
With Drumbo? Yeah. He posts a lot of memes, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's sometimes you're like, no, Drumbo, no.
Yeah.
It's like it gets sometimes with the politics stuff. It's like, oh, man.
I was trying to talk him into being on the show at one point, and I should probably do that again, but it's like, oh God, I've got to avoid the third rail here.
Yeah, and it seems like
it's a few people I could talk about that with,
and you keep him on that one pathway, it could be really great, but
because he's a genius musician, and then there's the whole thing about bringing the Magic Band back for the Ultimate. I mean, was it Ultimate parties? Whatever the thing was. Yeah. That all that stuff's like super interesting, but it's just like, oh my God, I do not want to see your political memes, dude.
Right, exactly.
I really don't. It's not.
Yeah. It's sort of like it's like weird dad stuff, or it's kind of like, wow.
Dude, it's peak boomer meme. Yes,
right.
Yes. And it's kind of it's like in the same way that when you see the like Mo Tucker from Velvet Underground kind of went that route. It's like, oh, that's so disappointing. Like,
I know. I mean, they're one of my. I mean, that's like it even hurts to even talk about.
I know, right? It's like, Doc, you're in the Velvet Underground. What are you doing? Come on, what is this?
I know.
It's it's sad.
Such a huge influence in my life. That band,
oh sure,
those first 4 records, and especially those first 2 records, like just good Lord. I mean, really, all.
You know what? I love Loaded. Dude, Loaded is like such a good rock record. And I get that like Doug Yule is not, John Cale. Yeah, I like John Cale too, but Doug Yule is like a badass, man. He was holding that band together at that point.
Every song is great, man.
They're hits.
New Age, oh my God. That is one of my like.
It's so good.
I mean, come on.
And I think if that band had been called anything else, it would be like, oh, this is lost classic. But because it's a Velvet Underground record, and they made like at least 2, if not 3 other records that like eclipse it in terms of influence and popularity, I think people don't give it its due.
No, I mean, man, not only Sweet Jane and Rock and Roll, but like I said, New Age, all these other, like every song on there there's no duds on any of those.
It's all hits, and it's insane. Yeah. It's insane because I think in any other like later era that would have been recognized, and it was just sort of like at that time, and then lose out, and then we don't speak of what happened afterwards. But
it was very not quite extreme, but it was they had a Van Gogh-ish sort of moment as a band.
And I feel like, and I enjoyed the Todd Haynes documentary quite a bit. I enjoyed most of Todd Haynes' stuff, but I was like, I hope it doesn't totally erase Doug Yule. And, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, and then Doug Yule joined. Anyway, back to John Cale. And it's like,
I mean, he was such an important part of the Loaded era group. I mean, come on, like his voice is a big part of it. Like.
And again, it's not, folks, don't write me. I love John Cale. John Cale is great. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
you can hold both ideas in your mind.
But I mean, that record is, and it's not power pop,
Right.
But
it's super catchy. And the song and like the arrangements are like kind of weird. Like, not like lick my decals off, baby weird, but like, I mean, the arrangements, like, as far as like rock songs are, they're kind of strange at the time, right? Like, you have like, and I guess you could argue that some of that existed before, but like stuff where it's like, oh, that song just never changes. But like, but it's like, oh, that is a distinctive verse and chorus, but like the musicality underneath it, like, barely like moves at all. And then you have stuff where it's like, there's a shredding solo in here, and again, like, you know, all the pure art house people are just like, oh, and it's like, oh, come on, give it up.
I mean, yeah, I mean, they are 4 absolutely perfect records, in my opinion.
Oh, I
what
completely
can you say
agree
about any of those? I mean, and they all are so kind of classic on their own. You know what I mean? It's just
there's
like,
something on each one where it's like, wow, nobody had done this before, and now there's entire bands that like have their identity based on this one song. You know, great.
right. No, I mean they're. I mean, yeah, because I'm just a huge fan, and I'm a record geek, and I, you know, they're one of the bands that I collect, and I spend money to have
Absolutely.
the mono copies of things, and you know, like. It's you have to like at some point because I once I heard the differences in some of that stuff, I was like, oh, fuck, my wife is gonna love this.
Now I get to get new copies of all this. Great, yeah.
You know,
I still have a. Speaking of, this is apparently going to be shirt talk. I still have a like it's so thrash you can barely tell what the design is, but it's the White Light, White Heat album cover, just like white on black, and it's like one of the most comfortable shirts I own. So I like still wear it all the time, but it's. Look at a little more rough for the wear, but I remember when I got that when I was like 16, I was like, I can't believe there's a Velvet Underground shirt, but I'm gonna get this immediately. You know, I just got it like at the record store or something, and I felt like
the crazy
amazing.
pirate flag that you can kind of see sometimes.
Right, and people, and I've had people been like, "Is that a Velvet Underground shirt?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wow, that's cool." I'm like, "Thank you." It's so all right. So you're being informed of jazz, Beefheart, like some of this more kind of out there stuff as well. Mm-hmm. And then, so am I right that? So first of all, when you're getting together, you get together with Darren first before you get together with Nick. Is that correct?
Yeah, because Darren. So I'm like, I didn't have my license yet. I was 15, and I was playing in a community college jazz band.
Yeah,
and at a community college where Darren was going to school.
Okay.
So Darren was 21. I was 15. We were the rhythm section. And we're both trying to figure out our way through these big band charts and stuff. But we can also kind of tell that like we dig each other, you know. And so during a break in rehearsal one day, he and I stay up on the stage instead of going to the vending machines, and because we rehearsed at in the college auditorium, and we just started playing. We started jamming. I think he was really getting into dub and stuff, and jaw wobble.
I was just about to say jaw wobble, probably, right? Yeah. You can tell. You can tell
dub music in general, and so he started laying down this bass line, and I just came in and started playing, and it was just like we both kind of perked up, like, oh, like
this is kind of cool. Yeah,
this is really cool, actually. And so we just improvised for the full sort of 15 minutes that we had the break. We went back to the rehearsal, and at the same time, Darren is teaching Nick some rudimentary guitar stuff. You know, Nick is like, Nick's like, I'm 26 years old. He's like, if I want to be in a band, I better fucking do it now. I better start now, you know.
And I love that, and I've had Nick on the show, and I just remember being so astounded that like that's how his introduction to music was just like, all right, I guess I better figure this out. And it's like, oh, okay, well that's, and that introduced such an interesting element into the band, where you have this more scholastic, if you will, methodology, theory involvement, like coming down from a deep, like sort of academic background, and then this guy that just doesn't know anything. Just like, I think this sounds good, you know. I think that made the band very interesting sounding, like very very unique.
Yeah, Nick was a
not that he didn't know anything, but you know what I mean, music theory. Sorry, Nick, don't
right. No.
At me.
He knows you too, right? No, he clearly knew a lot. He was a huge fan of music, right? And would like put on shows, and used to like roadie for different people, and like, you know, hang out with the Uncle Tupelo guys back in the early days and that sort of thing, right? He and Jeff Tweedy were close at one point, you know. And so by the time he's 26, he's like, the clock is ticking. I need to do this. And so then Darren discovers me. It's like, man, he's like, there's this kid playing in the jazz band. Like, I don't know. We started playing. It was really good. So Darren and I started getting together like on Friday and Saturday nights, just the two of us out at the college, because the chair of the music department at that point was really supportive, and it was a very small department. So we just had the key to this music building that had drums and amps in it. We could just go play in.
Just having a place to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I think people totally forget that aspect of just having a place to be able to ply the trade, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it matters so much.
It was in a really old house on this college campus. This was the kind of music building. So it had these really very large, tall, like kind of floor to ceiling, very thin paned windows, like some of those buildings will have, you know, I don't know, late 19th, early 20th century, something like this. Maybe.
Yeah, that's such was the style of the time, right?
Right. Yeah. and we would just open up these huge windows. We were set up on the second floor at one point, Darren and I.
Yeah.
And we would literally play for 5 or 6 hours, and sometimes we would do that straight without breaks.
Wow. Yeah.
And we're not doing any drugs. You know. There's
You're just having a blast doing the thing, man. You're just doing the thing.
We were totally being kids, being students, you know, we're finger painting together in a way.
Loving what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's teaching Nick guitar. And at one point, like I said, he tells Nick about me and then kind of me about Nick. And we all three meet at that, in that building, that old house on that college campus. And we play, like, I think Numb and Bottom Feeder were the first two things.
Oh, nice. I was going to ask.
The first thing that Nick wrote. There was some other thing that we played called the punk rock song early on as well. But I remember when we were playing Numb for the very, very first time, and these guys showed me the riff. They started playing, and then I just came in instinctively with this sort of tribal drum beat that ended up being the beat for the song. And it was just this one of those immediate, you know, lightning strike sort of moments where it was so obvious that, and it was like everybody could feel it, and we were just like, holy fuck.
And this is like what, like late '89, somewhere around that neighborhood. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about because in their way, I think Neurosis had such a huge influence on the world, especially of, you know, outsider music, heavy music, whatever you want to call it. But it wasn't like you didn't really hear a lot of that in the kind of milieu that you guys were working in at the time. And it was not that like there wasn't anyone doing it, but it wasn't like the thing to do or anything. And I think it just was immediately distinguishable of like, oh, this is different. What is this?
Yeah. I think it's an alchemical thing, right? And you get these.
Right. I mean, I guess you could say Martin Atkins on like a Flowers of Romance or something, but I mean, there's not that many. There's not that many examples of that, and certainly not with the ferocity that you guys were coming at it with.
You mean for this drum part specifically? Is that
yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha.
Sorry, should have been more specific. Yeah, still talking about that first. What ended up being that first 7-inch, right? That was those two songs, right?
Yeah, that was the first 7-inch. Yeah, you know, I think drums are tribal. Being in the Fifing and Drumming Corps, not only was there a line of snare drummers, but we had these huge bass drums, and these are
nice,
these are wood bass drums. These are like made by Cooperman. They are wood hoops. They are rope tensioned. When you hit, they're played with these wood beaters. When you hit those, it's like a fucking cannon going
right.
off, man.
Right, you know somebody hit the drum. Yeah,
we had 3 of them at one point playing in unison with 6 or 7 of us on snare drum, right?
Yeah,
and that would be the line.
Yeah,
it's so tribal in a way,
Yeah.
And you know, drums, you know, historically play such a huge role in war. In a number of different roles in war, no pun intended with roles there, but you know, I think that it just instinctively, it's kind of in the DNA of the instrument, at least how I hear it, and that's what ended up coming out initially, and that's what became. I mean, there was no like, hey, let me jam on this and work out the song. It was like, the riff, and that was, I mean, literally, it was like the first thing that I played, and it was like,
whoa, yeah.
Oh my God, this sounds fully formed all of a sudden. Like,
right.
You know, Nick, like he's done a number of times, but that very first time, you it was all instrumental. I mean, Nick didn't sing until he opened his mouth and record was going to make the 7-inch.
Right.
It was like, yeah, what's the vocal?
What's it going to be? Yeah. What is this? Yeah.
So,
well, then it's funny because I feel like, and maybe it's coming at things being a music fan for so long and then not really playing music, but I feel like he came out like he had his own unique take on it. Like immediately, that some musicians spend decades of their entire musical life trying to come up with a unique voice, right? And people look at it when you're first starting like it's like that's a detriment. Like, no, that's an asset. You sound like you. That's what you want. You want to sound unique. You don't want to sound like everyone else.
Absolutely. That's always been my goal, and that was absolutely what happened with him. And I mean, and sometimes people are like that. They don't know that they have it in them until they all of a sudden open their mouth and let it out. And it's like, oh, that was just sitting there waiting, like this whole
right. And it took all those years for that to be what transpires. And I think that's, there's something wonderful about that. And again, we do live in a culture of, people expect like instant success, or like we only have like certain types of stories that we like hearing narratively. And honestly, most artistic paths do not follow those journeys.
Not at all. Not at all. It's so, I mean, life is not a straight line, of course, right? Really for anybody. Yeah. Even when we try to, it just doesn't really work that way. But yeah, specifically artistically, like if you're going to really do it, like you better be prepared for the stream to take you
right
to the places that,
you won't necessarily know where you're going to go, but you're definitely going to go somewhere. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So on that, so you're getting together, that there's something kind of special going on, right? And so you record you record them a bottom feeder. Like, is it just becoming very fast and furious at that point? Because I feel like all this happened pretty quick. Because it's all like 1991, and then next thing you know, you do the first record. They got the switch. So tell me, like the run up to doing that record and like kind of finding this initial voice for the band. Like, was it just like, hey, we got these songs, I guess we better record them, or was there like any mindset behind what you should be doing?
Living in the Midwest at that time, 80s into the 90s, like that, was great when it came to finding some sort of empty industrial space. Like there was all kinds of band practice spaces, or like every band that we knew had their own practice space in our hometown. And it was like, hey, you going to so and so's loft or so and so's loft or blah. It's like we all
the abandoned bottle factory, like what? Yeah, just like whatever it is, everyone's got like some weird building that they're.
And they were like $100 a month.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
$150 a month. So.
And the building owner is just glad someone's using the space and is getting some money out of it. It's great.
Yeah. We practiced a little bit out of that college space. And then very early on, we got our own practice space in downtown Alton, which is my hometown.
Yeah.
Nick and Darren lived in, towns just adjacent, basically. And once it was a couple stories above a flower shop. And once the flower shop closed at 5, we could kind of do whatever
we wanted. Rocking.
Like 6 a.m, and that was another one of these older buildings that had these sort of like floor to ceiling height windows. And then we had a row of 3 of them across, and we would just open them up, and you would hear like Dazzling Kilmen just swirling and echoing through downtown Alton, and people would be like, "What is
that? What's happening
going on up there?" Because like they're headed to go see somebody play like Steve Miller covers and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Right? That's what's happening down
Tuesday
there.
night blues band down at the bar. Yeah,
right. I mean, like a Dire Straits tribute. I mean,
right, exactly.
And then they're like, "You boys all right up there?"
What's happening? What is that? Is that a machine? What is that?
That was an awesome space, man. It really was. We had a little old boom box up there, and I would go up there a lot, even when we weren't rehearsing, and I would just, hang up there and like drink beer and open up the windows, hang out the window, just people watch, listen to old punk rock tapes and stuff. And like, it just had this feel that I was like, wow, I like this. I want to be in the band practice space. And then all of a sudden we started playing shows, and I was like, oh, I want to do that more. I want to be in the van. And then we started touring, and it just, I was really primed for it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the stuff we got coming up.
Well, yeah, and that's so exciting. And I want to, we're not going to just talk early days. I want to get into that, but I want to also talk about that era, where the run up to the first record, which is now available again, right? Great, awesome. And
what I was going to say about the practice space. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. No, please. Yeah.
This is the run up. Once we got our own practice space, we just practiced all the time.
Right.
Like we lived near each other. We were super into what we were doing. I was just out of high school at that point. Then,
Mm-hmm.
It's like the summer that I got out of high school. And that's when we also recorded the first 7-inch. We're playing all the time. Nick is just starting to write. Darren is starting to write. Those guys are writing. I'm creating my drum parts and helping maybe influence arrangements and stuff. But like all the initial ideas are coming from those guys, at that point. And I'm just like so psyched because I'm getting this education that I didn't know was even out there for me.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's thrilling. Like you're getting to kind of like do your own thing with it too. It isn't like you're like kind of like making the rule book up as you go and then throwing it away if you feel so inclined. Great.
Yeah, I remember in the middle of we were playing the end of Numb, which is this really kind of driving part, and we've been playing for a while. And I just remember kind of settling into my body and starting to find that I was getting the strength and endurance to do this music. And I just remember just like letting out this like primal, just like I was just so like full of adrenaline and so psyched to be feeling this energy and to feel like I was starting to be able to steer it. I was getting strong enough.
Right. Like it isn't just like this it isn't just the ferocity. It's directed with purpose. Right. And that's exciting.
Yeah. It's to play intricately like that, but to play that ferociously is taxing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Mentally, physically. So there was like I could really feel myself, and I got to a certain level of just starting to feel physically comfortable with the stuff. And I just, it was a very clear moment that I still remember in the middle of rehearsal.
That's
and
awesome.
just going like,
Yeah.
I needed to do more because I had more in me.
Sure. Yeah. This is like
more to it.
These are the magic moments you never hear about in the music documentaries, but they're so important because it's like when you think about like why you're doing it, especially in the maybe like the darker times or like the times where things are not so great. Like, oh yeah, because it's pretty great when it's all working, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty damn great. So tell me, how do you end up? Steve recorded the first record, right? Albina recorded the first record, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
How'd you end up? How did that come together? Like, would you just like, hey, we got enough songs. I guess it's time to make a record. Like, what was the?
We were trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Because this guy, Dominic Mincelli, sent us like, I don't know, $1,000, $1,100, $1,200, something like that. Like just sent us money in the mail from France, like snail mail,
That's it. Wow.
I can't remember if it was check or cash, but it was like, all of a sudden we had this money to make a record. And so trying to figure out, who could do this? And then loving like Killdozer records and stuff. We were starting to look at Butch Vig.
Was again, for people that are coming at it from a modern perspective and maybe are not known, he was like the other big, like crazy, weird, aggressive, weird music. He was the guy. Like listen to like, those DeCroixson records and like listen to like all. It's like no, he was like a badass in that milieu, and then it's like no, he became known for a completely other thing and like this glossy thing that he like got into later. Good on him, but it's like no, it was a totally different thing back then. Yeah.
So for the kids, Butch Vig is like the guy. He was from the band Garbage. Not like Garbage is new. My God, I'm so damn old.
I know, and even Garbage is like I was a baby when I heard that. Oh my God, Jesus Christ. Okay, but no, he was the guy. He was the guy that like he was one of a few people that like understood the music that was coming at it from a pretty uncompromising, intense place, and you would get that some degree of that intensity on the record.
Yeah.
And as opposed to what other people were doing where it's like, oh, the records are interesting. Doesn't sound anything like how they sounded live though. Okay.
Yeah. both of these guys, Steve and Butch, happen to be in the Midwest also, which is where we were
Sure,
from.
proximity.
You know?
Something to be said for proximity. Yeah.
Exactly. We could drive to Chicago. We could drive to Milwaukee. You know, we were in Alton, which is basically
St.
the
Louis.
Illinois side of St. Louis.
I've actually played Alton.
Oh yeah,
yeah, at an adult prom, and that's a longer story that we don't have time for right now. But it led to the title of a split record with our friends in the band Long, because we both played that thing together.
Oh wow!
So I know
That's
Alton well.
good.
Well, not like, I mean, I played a show there, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I didn't realize it was that close to St. Louis.
Yeah. Just across the river.
It's like across the river. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so
yeah, we were going to try to go to Butch, and then I think he was maybe just too booked, and we were able to get into Steve, and we're like, well, shit, we'll go to Steve. And I Nick maybe has more details on it, but that's kind of, that's my vague memory of it. Steve had a reputation, of course, and we loved so much music that he was not only a part of, but also then recorded. And went up there and one crazy day and night, all done in one big session, and then drove home with it,
which is insane to think about. But again, that's some real young man stuff. We're like, oh, well, we'll drive back. We'll save money,
Yeah, it was punk rock stuff, And
it's like, okay.
We had to go back because my grandfather had just died like a day or two, like I just found out, like, I think on the way up or something. Anyway,
that's terrible.
There was like a funeral. Maybe I found out a couple days before. I can't remember now, but I had to be back right after we recorded to be a pallbearer in the morning. So we had to drive straight back. So that just kind of added, injury to insult a little bit. But
that's so heavy, man. That sucks to have. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, I was close to him, but it wasn't. It sucked, but. It was also a pretty natural, normal thing to occur.
So, and then Tweety does some stuff in that record too, right? Some like production stuff or something. Am I remembering that correctly?
So Jeff is credited as a producer on the record. We asked him if he would. And I think that we ended up kind of being. I mean, don't get me wrong. We were glad that he was there, just because he was a friend of ours.
Yeah.
And especially he knew Nick and Darren quite well.
And this is like Uncle Tupelo Tweety, not Wilco Tweety. It's important distinction.
This is early. Uncle Tupelo is becoming a thing, and maybe the second record just came out. Still Feel Gone, the green one.
Right.
Maybe, or they were just working on it. I can't remember, because we were listening to some of the stuff before it came out with him in the van. Like listening to cassettes of it.
And some of that stuff's a little on the rowdier for that kind of stuff, right?
There's a couple of Tupelo records are great. I mean, that's why they attracted all those like kind of shit kicking sort of frat guys though too.
It was that double-edged sword. Yeah.
But Jeff was there because he happened to have a little more experience in the studio than we did, which was basically none. I mean, we had a little bit because we recorded some 7.
You recorded something, but it wasn't like you were old studio heads or anything.
Yeah, and we're at Steve's place, and Steve's got this reputation and all that, and but Jeff didn't really do a whole lot. He would just kind of say, "Yeah, sounds good." That'd be about it. And I know that we were kind of frustrated by that, but at the same time, again, we were glad that he was there, because it was just still kind of like a security blanket. Like, he's a friend of ours who knows this world, and so
you don't have a lot of time. You don't want to make mistakes that you can't take back. You want to make sure you're on the right track, even if it's not necessarily approval. You want to make sure you're not making mistakes that are regret.
Yeah. So I think the role of producer is pretty loose. As far as that is concerned. But we were also, it was also probably nice of him to include it, because we were hoping it might help us. Because he was.
It's a name, right?
Thing, people becoming these critical darlings, these indie rock darlings, and starting all the alt country stuff, and so it was a really exciting time to be around St. Louis. I mean, some of those early Uncle Tupelo shows, man, were awesome. Like when they were small still, and like just people were. It was cool. It was a great energy.
Yeah, by the time I heard about them, that band was like 1 foot out the door. But I was like, I like what I heard, and they're like, oh, broke up, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Which
as they do.
This is what happens sometimes, you know. But so yeah, the dig out the switch stuff. There's kind of like, compared to what came after it, some like the structures are a little crazier. Maybe there's like more space in between stuff, right? Something along those lines. But it's very unmistakable that like the voice of the band is there. Like it feels like you guys are hitting it hard. And again, you have this awesome rhythm section, like this like jazz schooled, and then you have just Nick doing Nick stuff that is utterly unique and cool and coming from like, I don't know, it's subconscious. I don't know where it's coming from. But you get this really like unique, cool thing. Did you feel like it's a good representation of the band at the time?
It was done so quickly that, we wish we could have gone back and redone certain things,
because you didn't get to spend that much time with it, right? So
it's all 12 songs. One of the songs is like 13, 14, 15 minutes long.
Sure is.
It is.
I was listening to that earlier today, and I was like, wow, this is longer than I remember it. I remember it being long.
Recorded and mixed in one day.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And Albini was known for efficiency also.
Yeah, right.
And
it or you don't. It sounds good or it doesn't.
I think that because my friend Andres and myself went back and remastered Dig Out the Switch, so we were combing through.
That's right. Yeah.
And the first side of that record, I think, is quite a statement. I think it's kind of undeniable. Like, okay, that's the voice of a unique band. You can hear some influence, of course. It's not without that.
Sure.
But what we're starting to do is unique. And it aged better than I thought it did, because that was always a thorn in our side, that record, because we just thought it was terrible. We thought we didn't play well, and we thought it sounded terrible.
Because you feel rushed doing it. We
were all rushed. We were all tired by the end of it. You could kind of hear that as Andres and I were going through and doing the remaster. You could kind of hear, because we basically recorded the album in order. We just set up and played the record, right? And you can kind of hear it like starting off with just, man, it's killing. And then it kind of gets a little looser and looser. And then we come back again. We kind of finish out the raise,
Right. And then kind of like loops back up. Yeah. No, I can hear that. Totally.
Yeah. And but that first side is, I think, it's silly to say that about your own band, but I think it's probably in the canon of things going to be looked at as being important.
It rips, man. Like it definitely holds up for sure.
Yeah,
it's like, oh man.
Yeah,
this is like very clear statement of intent.
We're not as sophisticated as Face of Collapse yet, but it's kind of like Sorry Ma, I forgot to take out the trash, that early Replacements stuff.
Sure, yeah, which is
some of my favorite stuff, actually.
If I go listen to the Replacements, that's one of the ones I usually go to, right? Because it's like, God, it's so gnarly, And there's a time and a place for it. It's like, that's perfect for what that is, what you're looking for,
But the record sounds, again, not to pat myself on the back, but my friend Andres steers the ship, and then I'm there as the band ears to make sure it gets done the way we want it to be done. But the remaster sounds awesome. Like,
I listened to it.
Records are going to be really happy.
I listened to it, and it's really notable, like what a difference it is. And that's coming as someone that I went back to that one. Like, I heard Face of Collapse first, and I went back to it. But so I wasn't as familiar with it. But I was like, oh, this is like some serious work put into this. Like this sounds like way less. It's murky's not the right word, because that's not. But it is. It's more defined.
Yes, it was kind of, again, it was done super fast. It's a lot of material, know, and Steve's. There was the phone was hooked up to a light, so that the phone wouldn't ring, right?
Right.
The fucking light might as well just been on all the time. Right, and then we would get done, and he'd have like literally like 30 feet of facts, because like, granted, this is late 80s, early 90s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was in demand. He was super busy, and not to say that he might have been a little distracted. You know,
Yeah.
it was also a boatload to do. Don't get me wrong.
You're doing a lot in a short amount of time. You're doing it
There's
with
a
a
lot
guy that's
going
very
on.
in demand and you know, does his best to give everybody, you know, his all the time. But look, everyone's human, right? I mean,
Exactly. And you can hear it from all four of us, meaning like the three of us in the band
Yeah,
at that time, and then Steve, like going through and doing the remaster. Like you could hear us all getting tired.
Right.
Not only like behind our instruments, but at the mixing desk. You know, you could just kind of like, you could hear it. You know, there was weird phasing things and shit. We're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's probably fine. And then you
Where's
listen
the
later, like,
bass going?
what
Like, you know.
what were we
Yeah.
thinking with that? Yeah, I know
But
the
we,
vibes.
you know, went through and were able to fix a lot of that, and the sonic stuff. You know, the actual playing mistakes. Hey, they're there, man, for the record. But again, I think it stands as a proud and true testament, especially in an era like today when things are so overproduced and
Oh,
the
yeah.
life is being sucked out of them by, you know, being quantized and whatever kind of
AI'd at the wazoo.
created,
Yeah, exactly.
you know.
It's like this is very clearly, you know, music being made by humans, and that's it. And I think,
Yeah.
I hope that we're going to grow to treasure that even more as we are in this era of, like, you know, digital perfection on the grid, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's also soulless.
We want to make people feel something, right? I mean, that's
Right.
one of the whole points of being a musician that you feel initially is like, wow, can I make you feel what I feel from this?
Right.
You know,
'Cause
or at least give you your own version of it, but something that's good in that way, that's positive, you know.
people will forget all sorts of things about music, but they almost never forget how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
something that I think is
Yeah.
never discussed.
It's like, it's
Except for right now on this show. This is the only time it's ever been discussed. No, but I think
we
it's
are
important.
groundbreaking right now.
Yeah, exactly. We are breaking ground. Everybody, extra, read all about it. All right, so when so you guys start hitting it, right? And when do you start doing stuff with Mark Fisher with Skingraph? When does that come into the picture?
I think we had put out 2 7-inches. The first one we put out ourselves, basically
Right.
Nick put it out. Another 7-inch, the Torture Ghost Slim one.
Oh, and so it's gonna be the Mother's Day split, right? So
The Mother's Day split is the first thing that we did, where Skingraph got involved.
Okay.
So before that, we had 2 7-inches already.
Right.
I believe. I'm trying to think of the chronology, but I think.
Well, there's Numb Bottom Peter first, right? And then I guess
Ghost and Torture. I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
And then the Killing Fever one, and then the Medicine Me is the last. So we put out 4 7-inches.
Nice. Okay.
Mark Fisher and Rob Sires, these guys from
Rob, of course.
Charles, Missouri, I think is
Yeah.
where they were from. Were like these, like, you know, kind of geeky punk rock kids with the Buddy Holly glasses that were coming to all of our shows, or that we would see quite a bit, you know.
Yeah.
And ended up, you know, speaking to us at one point. Not me initially. I was just the drummer, right? And I was like also like, you know, clearly like younger looking, you know.
Right.
They would talk to
who's this kid
or whatever, and right, and you know, I think we got some copies of like some early zines they had put out with the comics and stuff, and
because they had the real blending of the comics and zine culture along with the records, and kind of like them kind of working in tandem. I remember this being something that seemed very unique at the time.
Well, that was their whole deal, and that's why we got on board, because it was like, oh, that seems like a unique idea. They wanted to start combining the music, and so we were the band that they approached initially. And it was a split 7-inch with this band Mother's Day, who I think was maybe from like Minneapolis. And we had the song Killing Fever that we didn't really know what to do with exactly. It wasn't necessarily going to be part of Dig Out the Switch, but we still at the time liked it. So we agreed to use that song because it was going to be part of a split. So that seemed to good usage of it.
It's a good usage for something that doesn't really fit elsewhere. Nice. It's like, oh, it's its own thing here. Great. Works out perfectly.
And so, you know, we could see that these guys were serious about what they did.
Yeah.
And eventually, you know, Mark put out the Medicine Me 7-inch. And that was such a upgrade. It just seems so professionally done, his artwork and his packaging and all that, and we're like, wow, this seems pretty legit. And then they were starting to get like
whole comic
distribution
set.
through touch and go, and touch and go got involved eventually and started helping Skin Graph with distribution, and then it was the first album we had done, like I said, for a French label, so they were not involved with that. We got the money from this guy Dominique.
That's the one. Messamy is the one that has the PAO cover, right? That's and did I invoke PAO earlier?
That's the B-side is from Pop Tones from Second Edition.
That's although to be fair, I did reference Flowers of Romance. So, but anyway,
that's probably my favorite. I mean, I'm a drummer, of course, but like that's one
that's
favorite.
every drummer's favorite is Flowers of Romance for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, every guitarist's favorite is Second Edition.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on, Keith Levine and all. Yeah.
No, and that's something where those. Yeah, that's a cool release, and that's something where, and again, coming at it from afar, like all of the differentiation between Touch and Go and the stuff that Touch and Go distributed, like it was like, oh, that's a distinction without a difference to a certain degree. And then like later, it's like, okay, Quarter Stick and Drag City and like all this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, these are all just cool stuff from the Midwest.
Yeah, right. I mean, there was quite a thing going on in the Midwest in the 80s into the 90s there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, there was different eras where it was about the one coast or the other, but that was a very solid Midwestern period there for sure. Yeah.
So you guys are you playing? Are you getting on the road a lot at this point after the first record, like, and these initial forays into the Skin Graph world?
Yeah, we did a lot of weekend stuff, a lot of, we'd go out for a couple nights or something, or we would do, 3 or 4 nights. And then we started doing like a week. And then eventually we did like 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks we went to the West Coast and back. I think that was the longest that Dazzling Killmen actually ever toured. So we did a lot of shows, but it was very sporadic. We'd go out to the East Coast for maybe 2 weeks or something, between Midwest and East Coast, about 2 weeks of shows, something like that. But 3 weeks was the max that we had ever toured. But there was a lot of one-offs and a lot of regional stuff initially, because you could play, being in the St. Louis area, if you were willing to drive 8 hours, there was tons of places you could play.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it feels like you guys made good use of that. And then all that, it seems like, kind of led up to Face of Collapse, which I think is a record it seems like people caught on to as time has gone on, right? In the way that the promise of the internet is that people the audience can connect with the art, maybe asynchronously, but it's the ability to do that. And I remember when I heard it, I had no frame of reference. I was like, oh, these guys are wild. Like that's like in the same way that like when I heard Yank Crime by Drive Like Jehu, I was like, wow, this is nuts. Like I love this. This is great. And then like later on, you're like, oh, okay, so they're coming from this world where these bands were doing this other. Okay, cool. Like kind of makes sense. But all you know is like, oh, this is awesome. Like this is like ferocious and like in a way that I'm not used to hearing. So when the Face of Collapse stuff starts coming together song wise, is it something kind of comes as a like ones and twosies? Is it something you guys like? Okay, sit down and write the new record. Like where do you go from there? Because it's relatively close after the Medicine Me 7 inches, like around that same time, right?
Yeah. We went from being a 3-piece to being a 4-piece.
Which is the biggest change, sure.
Yeah, and the addition of Tim Garrigan on guitar and what he brought to it, and where we were going as a band before that, that whole combination brought us to Face of Collapse. We were just getting a lot more sophisticated, I'd say, in our writing, sophisticated for just lack of a better term. I mean, there was more complex and maybe richer, chord variations, and some of the song structures maybe got more complex and richer in that way too. There's more of an emotional tightrope walk starting to happen. Maybe
right.
that we're learning to harness the energy more. I think all these things. And I think there's a certain emotional quality in Face of Collapse that I think allows it to stand apart from some of the other heavy
sure
of that sort of genre. It's not as, it's a lot more three-dimensional.
I mean, I think without it, you don't get stuff like, Dillinger Escape Plan and like Ken Mode and Botch and that kind of anything where you, and again, all of the terms are so loaded and inaccurate, but any of the, like the heaviness that is associated with, more traditionally progressive minded structures and things along those lines, like I don't think that you get any of that same way without that record. And that's exciting too, even though it's like, whatever, it's not exactly the road to fame and fortune, but I mean, it's important, and it's something that gets recognized eventually, again, which isn't legal tender. You cannot deposit in the bank, but
we wanted to make, first and foremost, great art, not to sound pretentious, but we really did, and clearly money or commercial viability was not a concern. We wanted people to like us and buy our records and stuff, but it was a bit of a uphill battle most of the time,
Well, and that comes out 94, right? And so that the landscape there is
94, I can't remember.
Yeah, somewhere around there, right? But I remember it was kind of like there was a brief moment that the weirdos were getting let into the big leagues, because they just couldn't figure it out. It was like, well, we don't know what. Why this and not that? I don't know. Take a chance on anything.
Yeah. Sonic Youth with Geffen, Melvins are on Atlantic all of a sudden, But it's funny because that stuff really started earlier on with like Husker Du. People always by 87, Husker Du were on Warner Brothers, or whatever.
Right. And I think you could make the argument that if someone else had recorded some of those earlier records, that it would have went in different places too. And that's my personal opinion. I love the band, love those records. They sound the way they sound, and that's the way they sound. But just like that first Gang of Four record, they sound kind of weird. Yeah. And what they don't sound is like a ferocious live band. It sounds ferocious and they sound bizarre and cool, but that's. But again, that's an alt history thing, right? Okay, so why wasn't Husker Du as big as the Pixies or Nirvana or something along those lines? Well, there's a time and there's a place too.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like as far as the weirder bands starting to kind of get let in, like it started a little earlier than most people realize, but it didn't really start to take off until after really Kurt started championing everybody,
Because that's not only the bomb in the room for attention being put towards different styles of music, it's also someone literally championing lesser known bands, which is something that I think is vastly underrated, which is all the more important today because there's just so much of everything. It's like a shotgun blast of stuff all the time, always, that you need to have a filter to be able to be like, well, what should I actually be listening to? Because there's everything all the time, always, because it's very easy now. It's easier now than it used to be. Yeah, it could yield wonderful things, and it just yields more. And it's interesting because people don't necessarily have that deep connection to the music but they'll like, oh, what's this? Boop, boop, boop. Okay, I'll just listen to the entire discography. Okay, done. Next. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's like, you had to like go to the record store, like, wow, that's a cool looking record cover. I wonder what that sounds like. I'll buy it and find out. And then you're like, oh, that is not what I expected, but it's super cool.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like eating a bag of chips.
Right, exactly. And so then, and that's something that I think is interesting with kind of finding so many bands of a younger generation kind of finding the Dazzling Killmen stuff and really like getting a rise out of it and connecting with it in a way that has led to this passionately loved subgenre that is not going to be in like Modern Drummer or these mainstream things, but it doesn't mean that people are not incredibly connected to it at all. And oftentimes that road is just sort of like, oh yeah, well, where was that, 30 years ago?
No, that's very much again like kind of the Van Gogh sort of syndrome a little bit.
Sure,
as a metaphor,
Yeah.
That's, I guess, one of the things we're very interested in seeing is do people actually care? Are they going to care? And
Right.
so far, we've been getting surprised a little bit that there's some people out there that seem to care and claim that we're influential in some sort of way, and that's, again, 30 years later, that's super nice to hear, so we're definitely enjoying that. And then really looking forward to getting out and actually playing this music.
Right. And not to bury the lead, one of the reasons we're talking is there are actually a decent grip of Dazzling Kilmen shows coming up that the ones near me I will not be able to see because I will be on tour when that happens, unfortunately. So that's the heartbreaker. But yeah, you're revisiting this. Like, you're coming back to it like years later, and with an entire, that I do want to touch on, an entire career of music post Dazzling Kilmen as well. But how is it coming back to that for all these years and coming back to it as someone, a little older, a little wiser, maybe, like, the tempers that maybe would flare before can be kind of muted a little bit,
I think that we realized, especially after we started playing this music again with the reformed group, that it is pretty important in a way, at least to us, and it seems like to other people. This guy, John, I don't know his last name, Darnell or something, the guy from the Mountain.
Yeah, for the Mountain Goats. Yeah, he's been on this very show. I love the Mountain Goats.
Okay, he just made a post about us today, his second post about us, and he said something like, "I got a lot of shit in 1995 from certain parties that I don't care to name," or something like that, about saying this record is important. Well, it turns out I was right, and there was a picture of Face of Collapse, and that was just today, and it's like. Okay, so some people think that we did something that is, valuable perhaps. And Nick and I, the idea of getting back together really started from the, Dark Days, Bright Nights festival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So were they doing this thing like, hey, would you do this? Would you do this thing? And
they asked a couple years in a row, and I think that it was the second time they asked, Nick and I were both interested. Tim and Darren, for whatever reasons, either wouldn't or couldn't do it, and so we talked to them and we kind of got their blessing. Like, hey, do you mind if we continue, if we find other people? Because we kind of want to revisit this music and play some shows and see what happens, So those, Tim and Darren were both good with it. And so that gave Nick and I the green light, because we didn't want to do anything with any sort of bad blood. It wouldn't have been with that. But if they were both on board to be like, hey, you guys want to do it? It's like, I get it. I understand. I just don't want to be a part of it. Like, cool. We were greenlit. And so, it all happened pretty quickly. I mean, part of it came about because Nick and I just got back in touch with each other. Like, he and I had been friends ever since the Killmen, and we've always been kind of close off and on. But it ebbs and flows. And there was like a period where we hadn't talked to each other in a few years. And all of a sudden we started talking to each other again, and it was really, really nice. It was really nice to reconnect. And this came about, and then we decided, like, all right, let's try to do this. This was probably the fall into the winter of 2024. Yeah, exactly. It was like, neither one of us had anything at the moment that would sort of keep us from doing this.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
And Nick's got a regular job, but he's got some flexibility. I work for myself, so there's flexibility there.
You put out that great record recently, and like you're doing like the giving some lessons to, like, doing that kind of creative work that the nonstop hustle.
Records, I play gigs, like I sell records, I sell books. I make a living as a musician from a few different streams, right? But so anyway, and I had a great friend who was a bass player up here that I knew could do it, and he was interested in doing it. So we had that piece of the puzzle, which was super important. Because, like, who's going to replace?
Yeah, that's some big shoes, man. Yeah,
right. That's a term that I heard many times when I was back in Mars Volta. Second time.
Yeah.
And yes, filling Darren's shoes. Those are some big ass shoes for sure. So we got somebody that could do that, and then Ben
from Uniform,
from Uniform, kind of grew up listening to Face of Collapse in a way. I mean, not but he was at some point in his late teens or early 20s or something. He discovered that record, and kind of became obsessed with it and like learned it.
It's amazing.
And when he found out through the grapevine that we were going to get the band reformed and to do some shows, he contacted Nick out of the blue and said, "Hey, if you guys actually do this, like, I want to be the guy.
I want in." Yeah.
You know?
I mean, he's a great player, and also, multi-instrumentalist, like great head for sound, like as a mixer, engineer, producer. Like that guy is very, he's someone that like seems like slots nicely into that group.
Absolutely. And once we got together for the first time in March of this year, it was really apparent that this is going to work. Like, wow,
that's awesome.
We've got
after all these years, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. And we've just been enjoying, like, Nick and I, oh my God, there's just multiple texts and conversations daily because there's so many things that are going on around all of this. Like there's all this merch that we've been working on.
Sure, of
artwork,
course.
new designs, booking other things, starting to, meet some other booking agents and, just deciding other directions for the band, looking into 2026, getting,
making
in various places.
Well, and you have the opportunity now to kind of bring it to people that never got to see it the first time, and that's exciting.
Which was almost everyone.
Right.
There's like a handful of people that saw the band in the first place,
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's like, it turns out that's most people.
Right. That's most people. Yeah.
Well, and that's awesome. And I want to, so I remember, I can't remember what was on air and off air, but it was not like the cleanest end originally to Dazzling Kilmen is probably an okay way to put that, right? It was sort of like,
it was pretty typical. It was clean as far as it definitely had been severed.
Mm-hmm.
Nick quit.
Yeah.
And no one is replaceable at that time, especially the lead guy, right? The guy who's the voice of the band, right?
There's a few times that's worked in history, and everyone points to those times. It's like, but think about the times that didn't work. Though.
Right. Yeah.
Van Halen 3, okay.
This happened 2 weeks before we were taking off for Japan.
Right.
We were getting ready to go to Japan for 2 weeks and tour with Zenigeva and do some stuff with Jim O'Rourke. It was a blow. It was a blow, but it was very clean as far as like there was no ambiguity whether the band was going to go on or not, or whether it would reform in some other way. It was like, okay, that's done. And all of a sudden, I spent 2 years. I had my own loft space down in my own practice space, as one did, like I was saying back in those days, in the downtown of my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
I just started teaching lessons out of there all the time. I did that for a living, so I could kind of do what I wanted. I practiced all the time. I started experimenting a lot. I was having people over to improvise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. You're staying involved with music, if not specifically with the mechanics of being a touring band that is making records and doing all the things that touring bands do.
Yeah, I had some time off to myself to really grow and practice. And, in the period of about 1.5 to 2 years, I had grown quite a bit. And then I was asked to tour the U.S. with Zenigeva on the Freedom Bondage tour. And so, those were old friends of mine from the Dazzling Killmen days. I loved them. And it was like I was getting ready to move to New York City. And that tour was going to give me the money that I needed to get me over, what I needed to get to the city from Illinois. And so,
and then you get to play with Zenigeva too, It's like,
I mean, that was amazing. It was like that tour was like awesome. Today is the day.
Yeah, crazy.
Glazed Baby, Stinking Lizaveta were a big part of it too.
Stinking Lizaveta, who are still around, still cooking. They're still going.
Know, absolutely, yeah. Old friends of mine since those days. 30 years ago or more.
Josh from Glazed Baby's a friend of the show and friend as well. Yeah, they're
gotcha.
all badasses. I never saw Zenigeva. I got into them too late, and then they were playing the Nerat Fest.
Gotcha.
And Null was denied entry. So the other guys did like a set of Zini Giva songs, and like Steve Von Till like played a couple of them, and like Scott Kelly played a couple of them, and like Eugene came out and did his Eugene Robinson thing, and it was like, well, this is like a Zini Giva party, but I still haven't technically seen Zini Giva. But I was stoked that they did something. Yeah, but I was
We had gotten. I wonder if that had anything to do with because we had gotten a couple tickets. We got busted in the Painted Desert.
It's a beautiful area.
We had got parked and were walking out, and Kazuyuki had like taken a couple things and put them in his. He had these cargo pants on and put them in his pockets. Right. There must have been like cameras in the cactuses or something, man. We were in the middle.
How do they know?
There's
nowhere.
Nothing.
No. If you've ever been there, it is like hard to imagine a place that's more like isolated. Right?
It was so desolate. It was insane. And then like we start walking back to the car and like, what? And so
what if it goes back to that?
Start making us empty out our pockets and everything. Yeah. Of course, like, a couple people have got a couple things. Then they go through our car and they find like remnants of weed that we had. But it was like bag. It was like a bag of like stems and seeds, man. And so we're all sitting on the side of the road, like we're getting ready to get busted with a pokey, And they ended up giving us like a pretty monstrous ticket. It was like $850 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And what was funny is it was for the weed, and then also taking some of a few little pieces of petrified wood. We get back in the car, and then Kazuyuki like goes into this like secret pocket that he had, and it's like, there would be everything. So he brought that back to Japan as like a nice souvenir,
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
a little story attached to it. But I wonder if anything like that had anything to do with
that. It could be, right? I mean.
That was in '96, so I don't know.
Yeah, all I know is I still have never seen Zini Giva play live. I love him, and to the point that not to make this all about me, but I had the good fortune my band went to Japan for 2 weeks in April.
Oh right, yeah, I've never seen your posts and stuff. Yeah.
And what easily the coolest thing that rock and roll has ever done for me, right? And I definitely had a moment of like, should I try to look up KK Null? And I'm like.
Oh, man,
but I don't really know him. I did like a zine interview with him in like '97 or something, right? It's like he doesn't freaking know me. Like I'm not.
He's a sweetheart, man.
But I'm sure I would love to. I would love to at some day see him do any, like literally any. Actually, I don't know why I'm short selling this. I was going to ask him to play one of the shows. And I was like, and when he says no, maybe it's like we can go to lunch or something,
Yeah,
like that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But it's I think that band's great, but that band's so unique. There's something like really unique in that same way. The Dazzling Killmen is a very unique band. That like what they do is very like idiosyncratic. So that's interesting. So approaching that, but you knew those guys. You knew the songs.
We had played shows together. Dazzling Kilmen and Zenigeva on the same bill. I mean, those must have been crazy bills for people.
Sounds okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
They I can't remember the drummer's name now, but he ended up leaving, or they got rid of him. I can't remember what it was, but I came in and I didn't play double bass. And so I kind of had a little bit of I played the parts, that were necessary and stuff, but on certain things I had a little bit of a different approach, and seemed to really like it. After the tour, they wanted me to move to Japan. They asked me if I would and just be in the band full time, but I had my sights. I was already planning on moving to New York City. And so moving to Japan, that never happened. But that tour was amazing. Those guys were a force. And I've got there's some footage of it. There's a whole show from the wetlands.
I saw that somebody posted it up like on YouTube or something, right? Recently.
But no, I can't find it. It's weird. It's like I'm like, did I imagine that? But I'm like, no. I've never seen it. Now I've not been able to find it. But I have some cassettes that maybe will get released one of these days of like some nice recordings from like WFMU and KFJC of the band. some good audio recordings that may be releasable. So
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit.
I'd love to see that. So okay, so and you end up in New York. Is that when? So when does Laddio Bolocko come together? When is that? Is it a couple years?
The couple years that I was kind of doing things on my own.
So I'm trying to think when I saw you guys. I think it was like 2000 that I saw you guys, maybe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, we broke up in January of 2001.
Okay. Yeah. And I want to say it was with Trans Am.
Yeah, that was September of 2000. We did a month tour. It was Trans Am and the Finnish band Pansonic.
Right. I remember I liked it enough that I didn't know who you guys were, and I bought a CD immediately. I was like, oh, whatever this is, I'm going to listen to it,
Yeah.
And then like later on, like I had to have it explained to me. I was like, oh yeah, it's a drummer for Dazzling Kilmen. I'm like, what, for real? Oh, cool.
So Ben Armstrong and Drew St. Ivany, the bass player and the guitarist, respectively, from Laddio Bolocko, lived near me. And they were huge Dazzling Killmen fans, and that's how I first met them. They had this band called Chalk 22 that opened up for us at a bowling alley, and these guys had so much fucking dry ice that you couldn't see anything anywhere, right? I mean, and they had gotten goat's heads from the butcher, and they had a bunch of goat's heads on stakes. This is at a bowling alley, like in the lounge of the bowling alley, right?
Holy crap!
They're opening up for us, right?
Yeah.
And they totally have this hilarious show, and they freak out at the end, and they knock over some of my drums, and they're like really into Dazzling Kilmen, and they are freaking out, like, "Oh my god, we're so sorry!" Like they give me like a bunch of weed and stuff at the end.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey man, is this help? Is this compensation?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool." We ended up like talking and getting to know each other because they knocked over my drums, and we became pretty fast friends actually. And then when Dazzling Kilmen broke up, there was that period, like I said, when I was doing a lot on my own. At some point, though, in that 2 years before moving to New York City, I started hanging out with those guys, and we started playing as a three-piece. And we kept their name Chalk 22. We did one show in St. Louis. We recorded a cassette, and we had this like kind of seamless like 45-minute set that we had put together.
Right, where it's like one piece almost. Right?
One piece, right?
Yeah.
So we did that, and the band was going for a little while. We were practicing a lot. But then my plans were, Zinni gave a tour, and then I'm moving to New York. So I didn't know what was going to happen.
Sure.
And after I was in New York for a few months, Ben and Drew decided, like, shit, let's move out too. Yeah. And they did. And I had been playing with Marcus DeGrazia out there as a duo of drums and sax, as the sax player in Laddio. But he and I met in Dazzling Kilmen because he used to play in the band Crawl from Cleveland.
Crawl, yeah, man. Yeah.
Crawl, right? So Marcus was playing in Crawl, and that's how I met him initially. And we kind of bonded over, I had like a Coltrane Live in Seattle LP I had picked up on that tour, and we were like freaking out one night listening to it, and kind of bonded and stayed in touch. And so when I moved to New York, he and I started playing together immediately. We were just playing anywhere and everywhere, cafes, street corners. Like we would get like in the old Laddio van at one point when we were together. We would like get in the van and drive around Williamsburg, and he and I would be like wailing in the back of the van, like with the windows down.
Yeah.
Live,
Great.
And then Ben and Drew move. So I'm playing with Ben and Drew as a trio. I'm playing with Marcus as a duo. Eventually, the groups merge, and Laddio Bolocko is born.
Fantastic. No, and that was a band that I feel like there was not a lot of bands playing that kind of thing at the time. Like it was very like, oh wow, like that's real interesting, because it's like there are certain elements of it, like kind of the krautrocky kind of thing, but there was like jazzy elements as well to it. But it didn't feel like a pastiche of influence at all. It was definitely like, oh, this is pretty like insistent in a good way.
It was a kind of nether period in the New York City music scene when Laddio Bolocko was around. It's Jonathan Fire Eater and all that was just one sort of band we'd see around, but there was no real scene yet. This is all pre-Strokes and Yeah-Yeahs and Walkman and LCD Sound System, and that whole boom that would occur just a couple years later. Yeah. We were in this sort of interim period when there was just really nothing happening. in New York. I mean, not that there was nothing, there's always something happening, but there was not a cohesive scene in a way, right? We hardly ever played in New York City, We practiced there. We lived in our practice space. We were super hardcore, but we did most of our playing outside of New York.
Right. Yeah.
We went to Europe for the first time and was like, oh my God, we got treated like rock stars and like people loved us. And so like,
right. Yeah.
We did a couple really big tours there where we'd be gone for, 9 weeks or so. But we were also like in our 20s and like, man, there was nothing greater than that at that point.
Sure. Yeah.
We weren't tied down to anything. I mean, I had we had girlfriends and that kind of thing, but it's nothing, whatever. It's what, what I mean? We weren't tied down to anything.
Yeah. You're down for the adventure. Right. And everybody's on the same page. Great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so interesting because, and there's that, there was all that like live and unreleased stuff that came out on the Bandcamp. It's like you see a real cool kind of breadth of what you guys were up to, right? With the different the different eras, like 97, 98, 99, 2000, et cetera, and like it's all cool. It's all it sounds like you guys are like very much creatively aligned and like just. Let's do this now. Let's do like this over here, right? Like it's like very exciting. It's exciting to listen to. Was it in vogue at the time? Probably not. But there's always going to be an audience for freaky music, right? I mean, this is not necessarily going to be a huge one.
I've never been in a band that is in vogue. I've never experienced that as a musician, to be in a band that's like, whoa, you guys are like the hot thing of today.
Okay, so why don't we talk about the Mars Volta?
Yeah. Well, I guess I forgot. I don't really consider. I don't know. Yeah, good point. I guess I literally forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's so fascinating.
It's a weird relationship there, anyway.
Sure. But I think it is interesting because I actually saw them on the first tour with Theodore, John Theodore.
Yeah. Playing
drums with them.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love.
It was great. It was amazing. And all I knew is it was at the Driving Guys' new band. And that Les Savvy Fav was playing, who was like one of my favorite bands
Old
going.
Friends of those guys, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
And then I was just blown away. I was like, wow. And then it's like, oh, and yeah, that drummer's gone, that bass player's gone. They got there. It's like, what? I just saw them like a minute ago. Like it seemed like this is like the most cooking band ever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know at the time because I had no frame of reference because information just traveled slower. I had no idea you had like early involvement or any involvement at all.
I mean, without Laddio Bolocko, I don't think there'd be Mars Volta as you know it, because we were an absolute direct influence, because they said when we formed the band, Cedric and Omar were like, hey, we want to form a band like Laddio Bolocko.
Can I tell you, I saw them at Bottom of the Hill, the same place I saw Laddio Bolocko. It's like, oh, somebody bought a Laddio Bolocko record. That's what I said. And I swear to you, I have someone that will back me up that I literally said that, and I was maybe the only person that knew what that sentence meant, but but I actually said it, and not in a bad way. I was like, oh, that's great, and this is not quite what I expected from these dudes, that's cool. So tell me about how that came to pass.
On that tour that you saw us on with Trans Am, we had done a 2-night run out of Spaceland in Silver Lake.
I miss that place, man. Yeah,
that was a good club.
Yeah.
And these two skinny guys with these big fros were like watching us like hawks. Yeah. And remember we were talking after the show because Jack Black was there also. He wasn't like a super famous guy yet. He wasn't like a household name, but Tenacious D and all that was going on. He was like laying on the stage while we were playing, and kind of swimming in all the sound and stuff.
That's great.
We were talking about the show, so it comes up like, hey, do you guys see those two like skinny looking, like broccoli looking dudes? They were like really skinny with a big fro. Like, who were those guys, right? So they end up, we're kind of watching them throughout the night because they just had a weird different vibe about them. We're like, who are those dudes? They just had a thing about them, right? They ended up coming up to us and started talking to us at one point because they really loved our band, and they loved what they saw. I don't think they knew anything about us, but they saw that and they were like, oh my God, who are you guys? We love you guys. So we needed a place to stay. as bands do when you're touring like that, you know.
Exactly. Yes.
And they're like, hey, we've got this huge warehouse space in Long Beach. It's like, you know, it's like 40 minutes away or 30 minutes away, whatever it was. Come back and stay with us. You're going to be here for a couple nights. Come back and crash. Like, great. They got plenty of room. These are nice guys. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we're all in the van. It's the four of us and Laddio, and then Omar and Cedric. And on the way to their place, we're kind of sharing touring stories and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
These guys start talking about like playing shows with like Rage Against the Machine and doing some stuff with U2 and like,
yeah.
Who are you guys? And they go, well, we're in this band called At the Drive-In, and they had never seen four blanker looks ever. Just,
you're like, okay, yeah.
That was not of our world at all at that point, right? So we didn't know what they were talking about. And I think that at that point in their lives, that was a huge relief. They were like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, because they're surrounded by people that they that's when they were starting to be like, oh, At the Drive-In, they're the next Nirvana, you know?
Yeah.
But can I tell you, the two times I saw them, one was on that last tour with Murder Shade Devils that they did, and the first time was, I think, the first time they ever played the Bay Area, and it was this place called the Makeout Room that charitably holds about 50 people, and there were maybe 8 there. And it was me and my friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, but they still, like, they were putting on a show like, it was just announced that the end of days was coming and that they had 30 minutes to live. You know, it was like, and it was like jumping off of the walls, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are great.
Oh man, I mean, you know, it was like kind of being in a war every night on stage.
Yeah, because they're so intense,
so
right?
Crazy.
So the intensity of like MC5 and like, you know, Fugazi and whatnot, but like they brought their own thing to it. And like I definitely at no point ever was like, oh, this is the next big thing. I was like, oh, this band's good. You know, right on. I'll buy a record.
I called them, you know, whenever Laddio Bolocko broke up.
Yeah.
And let them know, like, hey, you know, maybe those guys know somebody who's looking for a drummer. And Omar and Cedric were on tour with their little side project band called De Facto. They were like in Germany.
I forgot about De Facto. Yeah.
And so I talked to Jeremy Ward, who has since passed, R.I.P. Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jeremy was a good guy. I talked to Jeremy on the phone, who was, you know, their roommate. He was living in the warehouse space at that point, and he gave them the message that I called and that Laddio had broken up. And so they called me when they got back from Germany. Or no, they called me from Germany. I forgot actually. They were still in Europe, and they're like, "Hey man, we just got the message from Jeremy. Like, you're looking for a band?" I'm like, yeah. It's like, you know, I thought that you guys might know somebody. And this is Omar talking. He's like, hey man, Cedric and I have been talking, like, listen, you can't tell anybody this, but we're going to break up the band. We're going to break up At the Drive-In. We're going to come back from this tour, and we're going to make the announcement. You want to start a band with us?
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
my head is kind of going like, all these things are
what?
going. I'm like, oh my God, like, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it's like, we really want to do something kind of like Laddio Bolocko.
Yeah.
But, you know, Cedric is going to sing, of course.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm your man. Like,
great.
You know, Laddio Bolocko guys, that was my band. You know, I was kind of joking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm your man. Let's do this. And so
yeah, I'm very familiar.
they come back, they make the announcement, and by February, I think, of Laddio breaks up in January. By February or early March of 2001, I'm out in Long Beach living there. I'm flying back and forth. I'm going out to Long Beach for about 2-3 weeks at a time. I come back to New York for about a week, take care of stuff, my apartment, all blah, 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 go back for 2 or 3 weeks. And we did this for months and months and months, recording and writing all that early material, a lot of stuff that ended up on the first couple of records and the first EP. You know, we did a lot. I recorded a couple solo records with Omar during that period.
Yeah.
You know, we were recording all the time. Like when we were on tour with the Red Hot Chili Peppers in 2006, like we were playing all these arena shows, right? So we're in like these basketball locker rooms were the backstage.
Right. Yeah.
And they're pretty massive. And there'd be some room off to the side where we had a traveling recording studio with an engineer that was always with us. So drums would be set up. Mike all ready to go. There'd be like a show going. The Chili Peppers are playing down in the arena, and we're like tucked in the back.
You're like tracking something backstage.
And I'm tracking stuff.
Amazing.
Literally. And it was like, you know, sometimes I get off stage and I wouldn't know, like, am am I on the clock or am I off the clock
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now? Like, can I start drinking?
Yeah, right.
Is
So
that
can I
I
have
need
some
to
fun,
do?
or are we working? What are we doing? Yeah.
I didn't mix any of that stuff with playing, but I
Yeah,
definitely, by the time I was done through just the boredom of some of the touring, I want to drink after stage, but after getting off stage, but not before I'm done doing what I needed to do. And I never knew.
Sure.
Sometimes he'd tell me we're going to record and we didn't. Sometimes he'd say we're not going to and we did.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, okay, you got to be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah, always be prepared. Which is there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So and then that's Ava is playing bass.
In the early days, Ava Gardner is.
Yeah, Ava Gardner. Yeah, she's cool.
Yes, and she's gone on to play with all kinds of people.
She's played with like
great bassists.
Like Cher and stuff, right? If I remember correctly, like something like.
I think she's been in Pink's band.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I saw recently that maybe she's back playing with the Mars Volta guys.
Oh, really? Okay.
Maybe, yeah. I feel like I saw something like that in the last month or so, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, her dad was in the creation.
That's
Kim Gardner,
right. Kim Gardner. Yeah, she did a podcast. My friend Randy Randall from No Age has a podcast called Hyphenate, and he had her on, and I was like, why do I know what that name is? And I was like, oh wait, I remember. Like I saw her with like Mars Volta, and I like listened to it. I'm like, I knew nothing about any of that. And I was like, oh my god! So of course, like she's this musical badass. And it's like that's what your family is. Okay, all right, great.
Her family.
Awesome.
She was like a real Hollywood kid. Her family owned the Cat and Fiddle. I think that's what it was called, which is like a really pretty famous, like established, restaurant bar on right. I think it was right on Sunset Boulevard. I'd been there before, back in the day. When we were playing with the band together, she's like, "Come by and I'll hook you up," kind of thing,
Right.
So
cool.
I did.
Yeah, sounds all right. Yeah.
But yeah, she was great. She was there in the early days, and then when I came back, Juan Alderete, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
He was playing bass. So.
Yeah. So it kind of felt like they're, especially early Mars Volta, like a little more free flowing. As far as like, lineups and stuff, like it could still be the thing without it being strictly the same people. I mean, I guess you can draw your own conclusions when like At the Drive-In was a band for years before they hit big. Mm-hmm. And like with the same dudes, same dudes in the same van for literal years. And, and it happened for them. Great. But like, no, there's a lot of history there and there's a lot of, it's.
And that was more of a democratic thing. I would imagine. Not that I was there, but I'm guessing. Whereas in Mars Volta, it became pretty obvious quickly that it was.
This is the brain trust. These guys are doing the thing, and we're gonna like see which way this goes. Yeah.
There was talks, about if I'm with him a certain amount of time, I get more and more involved in the company, quote unquote, and start getting like more percentages of things. And they were really, very business minded in that way. And I think that's one of the big differences why when you have a group where there's like two figures, mm-hmm. other people can really kind of come and go,
Yeah. So what all happened there? Like, why was it just like something where it was just too demanding to like dedicate your sword to being a Mars Volta?
Dude. So,
because they hit it hard. Like,
the short answer is initially there was just way too many drugs.
Yeah, they hit that hard too.
There was a drug dealer that lived above.
Yeah.
He was the manager of like the Starbucks down the street, and then also sold not just weed, but he sold coke, and that's when it got bad. Right. So needles were starting to get involved. Heroin, pills, coke. We would have like our roadie guys who were just like old friends of theirs from El Paso that were kind of like living on Taco Bell and like sleeping on the floor and shit. They would coke those guys up. They'd be like up for like a fucking week doing like some project, building something in the studio, right? But they'd be like, Matt, you haven't slept in like 5 days, dude. You're starting to look really fucked up.
You might want to consider putting some sleep on the schedule sometime this week.
Yeah, I mean, there was some real dark moments there. I was also had just gotten married. I had met this woman in Germany. Didn't really want to get married, but in order for us to be together, she was from Germany, like it kind of made it easier.
Right.
So I was married, and all of a sudden I was like, she was working for the band also. She was a costume designer, so she was starting to make clothing for us. But there was some really bizarre things that happened sometimes where like our room, that was our room, like after one of the New York trips we came back, and our room had become like a wood shop with all of our stuff in it, and no one saying anything to us until you walk in and your room is a fucking wood shop with sawdust over everything, sawhorses, and it's like, there's all this fabric and there's all this stuff that that my ex had, and she's just in tears and freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, this is a great start to the trip,
Right. Yeah.
And then you get a lot of hardcore drugs, man, where people are like babbling and saying crazy shit and then don't remember anything they said the next day. Like we'd have these band meetings, and then like the next day it'd be like as if nothing had been said. It was like there was enough of that mixed with, again, I was gonna all of a sudden be touring all the time.
Yeah.
And this woman had just moved to the US and got a green card, or was in the process of getting it, and then I was going to be gone, and it was like, but then it was all these drugs, and it was just like, wait, I don't think this is the right thing for me to do right now. And
a lot to handle. Yeah.
I walked away from that. Initially. We were on the beach at night, me, Omar, Cedric, and this woman Silka, who I had married from Germany. And it was basically like,
I can't do this.
Guys, I can't do this. Like there wasn't a level of trust there that I was going to need in order to spend that much time with individuals, and, for me, I wasn't just like a career path musician. Like I'm just doing it until I get to the top. Like I was always in bands with people that I liked to be around. Like it was a Midwestern thing. Like you got in bands with people you hung out with, it wasn't
right.
Like,
Yeah. Your friends
in town and all that stuff. Right. And so this was still, and that's where they came from too. Like you said, they had a gang vibe too. That's where they came from. Like, these are my guys, my bros that are going to be in a band with them. Right. So, there was a lot, but a big part of it was the drugs, man.
It's hard to reconcile, right? If you're not on that same vibe, it's kind of frightening.
Yeah. That was one of the first things that they'd ask me, like, hey man, you like pills? I'm like, no, I don't like pills. I really don't. I smoke weed like crazy, whatever, no problem. Coke here and there every now and then, whatever, but not really a thing. But do I get excited about doing certain things like that? No. And there was just it got real dark because, like I said, a year later, man, Jeremy Ward, who I talked to on the phone, he was dead. There was some real dark stuff that went through there. Ike ended up dying. Listen, the name of our place was called Anakilapo, which is Fela Kuti's middle name, and it means he who carries death in his pocket. That was the name of our practice space. Wow. Anakilapo. Set it on the fucking mailbox.
Oh, wow. That's wild, dude.
Yeah. That was crazy, man. There was Omar collected TVs. There was this giant wall. I mean, because it was a warehouse space, right? So
sure.
Massive wall of TVs of every sort and size from every era, and a lot of them were plugged in and would work, and we were just like, whoa,
Yeah.
It was a wild
Why not?
There'd be envelopes laying around with just like thousands of dollars in it, like next to like a fucking empty pizza box and shit. I'm not
right.
Not even exaggerating. It's what they were all like in their early 20s, and all of a sudden had like big bank accounts. At the drive-in had done some like publishing deal with EMI or something like that, if I remember correctly, and they made some bank, and so they were paying for me to live on both coasts. They were paying for me to go back and forth and stuff because I couldn't have a job and also be in their band, right? But I still lived in New York.
Yeah.
So, they were footing all that. And then we started recording for initially Grand Royal, for the Beastie Boys.
That's right. I forgot about that. I forgot about Grand Royal, actually, technically speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, because the drive-in had been on Grand Royal. So we had that whole hookup. And, we had Gold Mountain Entertainment, John Gersh and John Silva and Gary Gersh were our managers. That's like the managers of Nirvana and the Foo Fighters and Sonic Youth and the Beastie Boys. They were like the big guys. It was like
Right.
And for me, coming from the land of Dazzling Killmen, where your record was never even in the record store hardly, and no one knew who you were.
Right.
This was incredible.
It's a completely different world. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. I had at one point, quote unquote, made it, but then it got really sour and stuff.
So then what, 2006, right, is when you went back and played with them. Some time has passed. Sometimes
back.
Yeah. And so what's that conversation like? I mean, Theodore leaves, right? Is that when Theodore gets the call for Queens of the Stone Age? Is that
No.
No, this is that's what I can't even remember. Golden? Is he doing Golden?
He'd been playing in Golden before that.
Yeah.
And Laddio and Golden had actually played a show in New York City.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it was like April or May of 2006. Omar is flying from Amsterdam, where he's been living, to El Paso, but he's got to stop over in New York for like 12 hours. So he comes to my apartment. He stays at my place from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. We stay up all night, just talking.
Right. Yeah,
talk
sure.
12 hours.
He's going to be jet lagged as hell, I'm sure, too. So it's like, yeah, what time zone are you even in? It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. And then there's so much natural energy there that the
Sure.
clock didn't really matter a whole lot. But so he's like, hey, we want to get rid of John.
Yeah.
The band's still going. John's still in the band, right? This is all like very private, very secretive sort of conversation. And Cedric and I were talking, and we're like, who the hell can we get to replace John, though? And you were the guy we thought of. I was like, you started all this, right? So
Yeah.
you want to come back into the band, basically? And I'm like, holy shit, because I had just gone through a divorce, okay, with a woman from Germany,
Right.
okay, who was there the first time around.
Yeah.
So that all didn't work out. Thank God. It was for the better. And I had met who is now my current wife, my wife Carolyn, and that was a done deal. That was like, oh, I found my person.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no question. I found.
You made your connection. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hadn't been playing for about 6 months. I had gotten drunk one night at this place I used to bartend at, and I fell down the steps, like going to the bathroom, and hurt my wrist a little bit. And I was going through this divorce and all this, and so I was just like hanging out, and I was doing a lot of video editing. I was just making like video collages and stuff, like an old like eMac.
Right. Such was the style of the time. Yes.
Yeah. And I was smoking a lot of cigarettes, and not in the greatest shape in that way.
Yeah.
And then I get this call from out of the blue, and then the whole negotiation happens. And so I tell Omar the whole story about what's been going on in my life. And I'm very honest about all this. And I say, there's a couple conditions. And then if we can meet those, yeah, man. It's like, you kidding me? Yeah, I'll come back. Like, that sounds awesome. Like, I get to play the drums for a living.
Yeah. Great.
Right? And so we land in Long Beach on the 4th of July, I think it might have been. And that's the day that they let John know that they had fired him. So they until my ass had landed in California.
Wow. Okay.
They let him know that day, because I was like, I had gotten picked up by Lalo, their the tour manager, who ended up going on to like work for the White Stripes. He's in their that one documentary of theirs. Anyway, and I'm like, so where's Omar and Cedric at? I was expecting to see those guys, and he was like, they're actually meeting with John. I'm like, oh shit, man! I was like the other woman or something.
I know, or you like snuck in the back door, right?
Lord, I was like, I didn't know it was going to be like that.
Damn, ruthless.
So,
okay, well,
and then we started rehearsing. I think the next day.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And how's that? Because that's like again, it's not like you're even playing that much at all, but like just coming back to playing with those guys after years.
Well,
does it snap right in or what?
No, because at that point I had to start learning John's drum parts.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that. Of course,
they were not my drum parts. Like he had learned some of my like I wrote a lot of early stuff.
Yeah,
but a number of records had gone by now at this point, right?
This is like a totally different era of the band. Yeah,
my imprint all over it, and that would have been easier for me because I had something to do with that. But the later ones that we were touring on, it was all him. And the drumming was incredible. and he was just so good at it. And I was coming from a place where I had not been playing for a while, and I had hurt my wrist, and I'd spent a bunch of time just sitting around editing videos, smoking cigarettes is really what happened. And all of a sudden I was like, oh shit. And I'm like in boot camp.
It's like basic training. Yeah, exactly.
And so, I find out in like end of April or the early May that I'm going back into the band.
Yeah.
By July 5th, we're rehearsing.
Yeah.
By August 20 something, we're playing our first warm-up show to like 1,000 people at a club in like Petaluma, I think. And then the next day I'm playing for like 14,000 people. And we're on tour with the Red Hot Chili Peppers for like 3 months or whatever.
Right.
The legs of that tour.
What a ramp up.
We'd play our own shows sometimes when we had a day off from the Peppers tour.
Yeah.
And those were the most intense and the most amazing because those were 4,000 or 5,000 general admission sort of shows where there'd be thousands of people right in front of the stage standing there, and it was like so intense.
Well, and they're there for the band. They're not just there like, what's this? What's this for? Like, like I've heard of these guys, or like they're there because it's like, oh, we want to see the Mars Volta. We presumably like this band, have the records, are deeply connected to this music, and want to be part of this experience. Which
there were no other bands when we did our own shows. We were the only band because we literally would play for 2 hours and 45 minutes straight. That shit. I was like, it's like a marathon runner,
right? It's a different set of muscle groups, practically, I mean,
at one point I had one leg that was longer than the other because my body had shifted so much.
Oh
and
my God.
Chiropractor, like my wife was like, whoa, honey. And she was like looking at my legs with the chiropractor. And it was
my God.
Like, no wonder crazy. I feel so fucked up,
Yeah, you're walking like Popeye. Yeah, exactly.
In order to play music like that, I mean, like from a drumming perspective, there's such an amount of physical agility and endurance that you have to have. Like it's crazy. And so, it's kind of like getting back into the Killmen. Like, when I was making those Killmen parts between the ages of 18 and 21, I'm still really limber and I'm a better drummer now than I was then. But
sure.
There's something with youth though that is just kind of like, whoa, that shit is crazy though. It's like, oh my God, like
the physicality comes a little easier, and it's also a little different, right? And you have to I think of the it's actually the last movie in the Rocky franchise, the one that's called Rocky Balboa, right? Have you seen that one where he's like, it's like,
I don't think so.
First of all, it's great. It's actually one of the best ones, and it's almost like an apology for what was at the time before that the the last one in the franchise, which is the only one I hate. I don't like it at all. But there's a whole thing where he's boxing while being like an older dude, and it's like, well, you don't have that speed like you used to, but what you can do is like really like build up your strength and just like hit like a sledgehammer, right? And it's so interesting because I've used this as an analogy multiple times that, again, you're never going to play like you were when you were 20, of course not. But what you can do is you can take what you learn from that and maybe better techniques and and you can apply it in a different way that it achieves this similar-ish result and does something really cool, but you're not trying to do a thing that you would be physically incapable of doing. You're going to do the thing that you do now. And there's something to be said for that, especially when you're someone that's continuing to improve their craft. And I think that's fantastic. And especially because look, this is some serious drumming. This isn't like, love Ringo Starr, but this is not tippy tapping, This is this is like intense business.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do anything as you get older, right? You have to do like 5 times the work for half the results, but but this is especially demanding. So it was so interesting when I heard that, because Nick told me about the Kilmen stuff before it was even announced. I was like, wow, really? Like I was like kind of taken aback. I was like, cool, but and the first thing I thought of was like, holy shit, what is it going to like? That's got to be some regimen to get back into shape to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Which, not that you're like sitting idle and not playing, but it's like, no, there is a physicality to it.
But
right?
It's a different level of physicality for sure. Because I've been playing the whole time, but that is and we started working on this stuff in January.
Yeah.
And it's been a nice, slow, steady progression to get us where we need to be. And the last rehearsal that we had with the group in late June was great. Like we were like, okay, we're basically ready, you know. And then once we get a couple shows under our belt, it's only going to get better from there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the band, you know, we're sounding really good. I think people are going to be really happy, you know. So
Yeah, I know. I wish I could see any of these shows that are scheduled, but like whatever. Maybe there'll be other opportunities. Hopefully, I love it. I think it's great. I love that you guys are doing it. I love that it's kind of brought more attention to the band and the records, and we get certain weird flash points in history that every once in a while asynchronously people will be able to sync up with art that maybe didn't get to connect at a larger level, but to be able to find your audience at any time is always a boon and something that's worth celebrating. And I think that's great, man. And I love that you guys are doing it. Like I said, I hope I can see it myself at some point. Anything else you'd like to share coming up, Blake? I mean, you got some.
There's so many different things we could talk about, but I mean, we've got 2 hours in here. We're
yeah. It's
there's
enough.
one quick thing I'll plug.
Return engagements are allowed on this show, so it's okay.
It's one thing I'll plug is there's an all drummer protest record that I'm a part of.
Oh, whoa, really?
Spearheaded by David Silver from Season to Risk. And being mixed by John Evans, who would spend a bunch of time with Tori Amos. I'm on it. Greg from Deerhoof, Matt Chamberlain, who's like a hugely famous drummer. He's kind of like the Hal Blaine of our generation.
A little bit, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Chris Enriquez is on there. Kelly Scott,
Spotlights, yeah.
Cliff Spurlock that was in the Flaming Lips for a super long time.
Cliff. Yeah, that guy's an awesome drummer.
Yeah,
these are all awesome drummers. That's cool.
This is all, the idea is that these recordings were to be played, which they have been, and Greg and I did the first 2 recordings, and they're played at protests, basically, pro-democracy protests.
Hell yeah.
And cranking over a PA system to sort of galvanize the crowd in a chant. So it's a popular chant. There's a tribal drum beat recorded by David Silver, and then us guest drummers then put like a sort of lead accompaniment to it in a way to where we play along and we groove and all that, and we kind of go off and do our things. And so there are like condensed 4 and 5 minute compositions that's like what I made that are going to be on an actual LP that's getting pressed. It sounds like it might be out maybe in the fall or early winter. But that's a really cool project.
That's awesome. That sounds great. Yeah, I'm all in on that. That sounds great.
There's a Bandcamp. The Bandcamp is Drum Corpse.
Okay, cool.
.bandcamp. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll link to that in the show notes with everything else that we got here. Blake has been awesome, man. Thanks so much for spending so much time with me and talking about all this stuff. Like I said, I really hope I get to see you play at one of these bloody things.
Yeah.
Last thing, this is the only canned question that I ever ask on the show. You can choose to interpret it however you like, but why do you do what you do?
I mean, at this point, I don't know what else to do, and it's also what I've done since I've been 8. And I think it's what I'm best at, and I think it's what I was made to do, but it doesn't mean that it's been easy by any means. But I still stay on the damn horse, and I'm tenacious enough and just pissed off enough still as a punk rock kid to keep on doing what I do. So fuck it.
Awesome. Blake Fleming, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Conan. I appreciate it, man. Thanks, brother.
Take care, brother.
Cheers.
There he goes. Blake Fleming. What a great talk. That was awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed that half as much as I did. Let's actually hear something off of Face of Collapse. This is Agitator. Goes a little something like this.
we going? Is this thing on? Test. Can you hear me now? As we come to the close of our broadcast day, this is my farewell transmission. Signing off, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all the ships at sea. Anyone within the sound of my voice. I've got 50,000 watts of power. I want to ionize the air. This microphone turns sound into electricity. Can you hear me now? Out on Route 128, dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency,